Welcome to my dad's car. Enjoy!
Welcome to My Dad's Car, a podcast discussing our personal relationship with automotive nostalgia. And you know what? It doesn't even have to be about your dad's car. It can be your mum's, your grand's, your parents', guardians, or even a neighbour's. If it made an impression, let's talk about it. Let's click record, otherwise this is all for no reason at all. So, welcome along, Rob, John, Rob.
Hi, John. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you again, Andy.
Hi, Rob. Nice to meet you.
Cool. Yeah, let's jump into it. What's your earliest car memory?
It's a bit of a weird one, I think. It's a fast Ford memory. Well, not really a fast Ford, but a semi-fast Ford memory of driving home in terrible torrential rain with my parents from the ferry after a trip to see friends in Holland. And we're coming through Guildford and the car's broken down. And I've woken up. They've put a little sleeping bag on the back seat. There's no child seats in those days, you know. And I can remember waking up and sort of peering across between the seats and not seeing my dad in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
We're parked up. And he's outside trying to suck the water out of the petrol tank on the side of the road. As
Jesus.
And I can see it now, weirdly, and possibly because I love fast forward. So it was a Mk1 Escort, 1969, 1300 GT. With the 6-dial dash. And I can remember just looking at the 6-dial dash going, I can't normally see that. I can't normally sort of, from where I'm sat in the car, you know.
Yeah.
That was it was the middle of the night. I was stressful. Mum was upset. And that's my first sort of car memory that bloody things break down. You know, that was that's where it's from. So when you mention that, it's like, that's all I can remember. It's just that moment. And I must have been 3-4 years old, something like that. It was 1970, so yeah, a long time ago.
Do you have any siblings, Rob?
I don't actually. I am an only child, so no siblings. No, it's just me and.
Okay, so you had the luxury to actually stretch out on that back seat.
Completely stretched out, yeah. But thoroughly spoiled only child, you know, in this lovely sort of setup in the back. But you know that led to. Sort of this understanding of, you know, that car. It was a lovely Ford Escort, brand new. My dad bought. He wasn't a very wealthy guy. My dad was very normal, working class fellow. Worked in a factory. Mum was a nurse, but his cars were everything. He bought this car, but his mate. My second kind of real reference is. Another fast forward, his mate had a Mk1 Lotus Cortina.
Nice. In white and green?
In white and green. Classic white and green.
Oh, nice. Whereabouts were you guys based, Rob?
We lived in Basingstoke, little council house in Basingstoke.
Okay.
Yeah, and probably my mum would say that my dad just spent too much money on cars and not enough money on houses and things like that. But, you know, it's sort of, that was his joy, you know, and we would travel, you know, to all the racetracks and go and watch Grand Prix. I'd go to Grand Prix in a pushchair type of thing. It's always been a connection to tinkering in the garage. But,
So your dad was hands-on, was he?
Very hands-on. Very hands-on. Yeah, it's sort of one of those very capable fellas of that generation, you know, that sort of that wartime generation of seen it all, kind of had the experience of things that you never want kids to have the experience of. But so dad not being around, but having to crack on with things. And, you know, he was very much that sort of capable person, will just grab anything and make it work if it's fixable kind of thing. Yeah.
Where did your dad go from the Escort, Rob? Did he have that for a long time?
Not too long, I guess. I mean, it's difficult to sort of, you know, judge the times as such, but I remember the number plate. It was RDP 155G. right? So it was a Reading number. We were in Basingstoke, but all new cars were registered in Reading. And his next car.
It's funny you say it. Sorry, just to jump in, but I was born in Reading, and my dad always used to point out cars with an RD number plate. Oh, there's a Reading number plate, and I'd be like, "Oh, so what?" But then I think
it's funny though. I just sort of, it's something that I just recall, and
yeah.
But I remember, holding my dad's hand going into the Ford dealership in Basingstoke, Jackson's, and him making a commitment to a new car, which was a 2-litre GXL Mark III Cortina.
Okay.
And it was a demo car, so it wasn't kind of brand new, but it was a demo.
Yeah.
But it was really unusual because it was a 2-door, so there wasn't very many 2-door cars.
Oh, cool.
Classic sort of burgundy with the vinyl roof.
Yeah.
73 car it was. So L registration. But yeah, he had an unfortunate accident in that car and wrote it off on Christmas Eve. And I don't know if it's probably 74, Christmas 74, something like that. And a drunk driver hit him head on. He was just going to get his mum, my grandma, to come and look after me because they were out on the Christmas Eve drink up, But yeah, he didn't make it back. He ended up in hospital for Christmas. So that was quite an impactful kind of, again, my first experience of it all going properly wrong. And his friend, I was just saying, the one with the Lotus Cortina, had upgraded by then to a Mexico. And he came and got us to go and have a look at the car that had been towed into the local garage, and it's just a horrible state. I think I've got a photograph of me about yay high looking at this sort of wreck of a Cortina, which was a lovely car. The sort of plush back seats. I don't know if you remember them, but they had Fords were great. They had quite nice cars in those days. And, but I had a seatbelt. And I really remember the fact that I had a seatbelt in the back of the Cortina. So that was something my dad fixed in, because my mum was complaining it was unsafe or something.
And your dad was all right. Is your dad still around? Or?
Yeah, he is still around. He's in a way, part of wanting to do this with you guys was a little bit for my dad. He's quite old now. Mum's pretty poorly. He's looking after her. He's a bit grumpy as a result of it, and he's lost a little bit of interest in cars. And
yeah.
It's sort of, for me, that's quite a milestone, because me and him every weekend as only child, man and son, we just tinkered with cars all the time, and that was our thing. And so, yeah, it's sort of a little bit of, when you started this podcast, I thought, oh, that'd be great. I'd love to talk about my dad and the massive impact he has had and still has on me in this genre. I mean, me and my sons, we're obsessed with blooming cars. I mean, it's all down to my dad, Yeah, it's funny.
I think it's nice, isn't it? As a parent, especially, you kind of spend a lot of time kind of doing stuff and getting absolutely no thanks back for it. And obviously, with a little bit of that kind of knowledge or hindsight, you kind of think, yeah, maybe I should have spent more time saying thanks to my parents. And yeah, perhaps this is a medium for people to go, yeah, actually, I do recognise, whether your parents are still around or not, I do kind of recognise that you kind of went out your way to mean that I had a good time, or we kind of did some special stuff that not everyone did.
100%. No, 100%. You're absolutely right. I mean, I said to you last night, I didn't prep, but in my head, I've been thinking a lot about some of the stuff we used to do, and going to the motor show. We'd go to the Earl's Court Motor Show. It's amazing. And I can remember my dad would always buy the tickets for the press day.
Okay.
So that it wasn't too crowded.
Nice.
And I got this, again, incredible memory of sitting in a Lotus Elite with Colin Chapman.
Wow.
Yeah. He was actually sat in the car talking to press, and I was sat in the passenger seat, sort of like this little lad, in that, the wedge shape one, the wedge shape with the almost a shooting brake style Elite.
Yeah.
just been released at the Earls Court Motor Show, and we were wandering around. We're just, able to sit in all the cars and get all the brochures. I collect brochures all the time, that kind of thing. And how cool is that? The genius. I was within sort of a foot of sitting with sort of car god-like people, That was cool.
Did you know who he was at the time?
No, well, I didn't, but my dad did. My dad did. He was like beside himself.
Get in there.
Yeah, he was thoroughly beside himself. And, we'd go, as I say, to the Grand Prix. And I mean, there's loads of stuff been on recently, isn't there, with movies. And I think the interest in Formula One has gone up a scale. But as a result, I think there's a lot of sort of stuff coming out on TV of what's happened in the past. And, I look back at that sort of mid-70s Formula One. It's amazing, sitting at Woodcote at Silverstone, watching the cars going around, going into the garages, interacting with the mechanics as a punter. I mean, you're just so far away from that now. I physically got asked to leave the Williams garage by Frank Williams, and I thought he was a grumpy sod for not letting, and I was like, I don't know, 7 or something like that, 8 years old, and it's just amazing to have that sort of recall or the experience of real superstars of our sport, of that sport.
I wonder if perhaps F1, and I don't watch F1 closely at all anymore, but I wonder if it's now a case of the sport is a little bit more interesting off the track than it is on the track. I don't know, but with all the documentaries and stuff.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't want to be cynical and old man about it. It's better in my day. I think you got to always look forwards, and it isn't the same sport, but it's not to say it's not incredible. And, the drivers are amazing. And I look back at Lauda and Fittipaldi and Piquet and Mansell, and those guys, and Senna, of course, those guys as sort of, amazing characters. But I think, my kids will be looking back at Verstappen, and how, I love Lewis Hamilton, by the way, but they'll be looking back like I look back on those guys. I think they're amazing guys. I think they're absolutely incredible. So, yeah, I kind of enjoyed it. It was a bit more gladiatorial, perhaps, but that's because I'm an old fart, maybe. I don't know.
Different kinds of athletes now, aren't they? I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, no, definitely that. Yeah.
Yes, I think obviously a lot's changed, isn't it, with regards to that? It was a bit more hairs on your chest motoring, wasn't it, back then? It was kind of James Hunt beer for breakfast.
That's it, yeah.
Probably with a couple of blonde bombshells in his car, and then
punch someone in the paddock.
I mean, the cigarettes were incredible. I mean, but you wouldn't have had the sport if it wasn't for Philip Morris. It was absolutely clear. But thank God that's moved on, right? I mean, I can remember, I think it's Ecclestone saying that there won't be a Formula One without Philip Morris, but of course someone else pops up, don't you? And then he was there with a cheese manufacturer on his cars. It's sort of, it changed. It's quite interesting how it pans out. But yeah, motorsport, massive thing for us. Touring cars, used to love the Capris. My dad got a Capri, 3-litre S Capri. I was beside myself when that turned up with the Recaro seats with the mesh fishnets in it. Yeah.
It's literally like he's ticking off every fast forward at this stage, Rob, isn't it? I'm intrigued how it goes as he gets older.
Yeah, he went off piste a little bit because he between the Cortina and the Capri, he went to Triumph. And we had a Dolomite 1850 and then a Dolomite Sprint in British Racing Green, a classic Dolomite Sprint in British Racing Green. And I thought that was really unusual because my only cars that I'd been in or sort of used to had the blue oval. And there's this sort of weird English thing came along with 16 valves and a little button on the gear selector for overdrive.
Overdrive, yeah.
I just used to think that was really cool. Now sitting up front, a little bit older, I was allowed to sit up front and the lovely wooden dash and stuff. So that was cool. But yeah, when the time came, 1978, VJH 80S was the car number plate. And he upgraded the number plate on the car. And so on the car, when it was delivered, it had like a pressed steel number plate. really cheap, nasty thing. But he upgraded that. He thought that was. But I had those plates on my bedroom wall as a result. So I just remember the number plate ever since. But yeah, that was very cool. But it was interesting because it was at this time he was in a manufacturing for a company called Lansing and Bagnalls. They made forklift trucks. They were like a premier manufacturer of forklift trucks. And in Basingstoke, where I lived, people worked either for Lansing Bagnalls or Smith's Industries. You know, it was a bit like that in the town. And so they were a big employer. All Dad's social network, Mum and Dad's social network, were around the sort of the work social club, and you know, and then there was little car clubs and sports clubs. My dad, big sportsman, my dad as well, played a lot of cricket and football. I never picked any of those skills up, sadly. So he worked with a chap, in fact, become best friends, who was racing a 356. And this guy is quite famed in Porsche circles. His name was John Lucas, Lukey. And I thought this bloke was amazing. He was an absolute character. Yeah, you know, you say character, you know, a little bit on the edge sometimes. Do you know what I mean? They're not following all the right rules, perhaps. You know, he was one of those characters, brilliant guy. And that was my kind of first real connection to the P car. And it then just, you know, took off for me. It went absolutely crazy. Dad joined the club and would help John Lucas, DeSelva Lucas, his name was very, very flash. He prepped the car. Dad built him a trailer, literally designed and built a car trailer for John. And we used to follow that Porsche series around the UK.
Oh, wow. What sort of era was this, Rob?
This, for me, was late 70s.
Okay.
Definitely into the early 80s. And you can Google, in fact, I'll send you some links of this car he was racing, and then his daughter raced. His daughter was just a few years older than me. But can you believe this guy was racing in the Porsche series, Type A 356 Carrera with a 4-cam in it?
Wow.
And he was drilling holes in his car to take weight out of it. It was, I mean, my dad was there quite often, you know, in the middle of the night, this little garage in Basingstoke, or just outside Basingstoke, prepping this car and trying to take as much weight out of it as possible. I think it was running about 170 brake horsepower.
Okay.
Amazing. There are a few photographs of the car on the internet with a certain set of Fuchsi's on this car, which I happen to have in the garage, which is
those wheels?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So they've got a bit of history in it, and John Lucas Lukey was quite renowned for engine building. So the engine in my dad's car then, but mine now, I'm fortunate to say, was built by John Lucas. So it's got a bit of providence as a result of this. But it's this Carrera he was driving. It was right-hand drive, the only right-hand drive car they made, and it was exported from the factory to Kenya. How John ended up with this car, I've got absolutely no idea. But it was at that point in time where they weren't worth anything. They weren't that special. So
what sort of money is one of those now? They're like, what, £500,000 or more?
They talk about an engine rebuild being about 100 grand, don't they, on the 4-cam?
Good God.
I mean, it's silly money. Probably more than that, I would say. Yeah. But yeah, so my claim to fame is I've been driven around a paddock in one of those, in a 550 Spyder as well, which was incredible.
Oh, cool.
And I've gone to a circuit in a 2.7 RS, which became my absolute favourite car, and still to this day is my sort of dream car. I don't think I'll ever get to 73 RS. So we were in a little crowd of these people with completely oily nails kind of thing, and just tinkering with old Porsches the whole time, and sleeping in the back of their Volvo estates, and, you know, whatever at each race event, Snetterton and Alton Park or whatever. And yeah, we used to follow them around. It was just, for me, it was just heaven. I was just in Porsche sort of heaven from that early sort of, I'd say late 70s, early 80s.
Did your mum ever get involved, or did she pack the sandwiches and send you off?
No. Pack sandwiches and off she'd go. So mum's a bit of a princess. She's a wonderful lady. She's very poorly at the moment, sadly. They're in their late 80s. But no, she wasn't a driver. Dad tried to persuade her to pass a test, which she did do, but she was a bit scary in the car, if I'm honest with you. So she liked the passenger seat and being picked up and dropped off. And that was mainly my dad's job, was to run her around. Still is exactly the same now. But no, we would be packed off, camping kit in the back of whatever car Dad had at the time, and we'd hang out at the circuit. We'd go down to Le Mans. We used to go down to Le Mans in that period of Group C's, which was incredible, absolutely amazing. But yeah, that was pretty amazing memories, really, And that's when he got hold of the white 356 that I've got now.
Did he buy that as a toy, or did he kind of have to make a choice that was going to be a sensible car?
Well, no, much to my mum's utter dismay. As I say, they weren't wealthy people, but it was a toy. It was something that he bought to tinker with.
Yeah.
He had access through his friendship group. He had access to all the right bits and pieces that perhaps we wouldn't today. It was a different kind of world with Porsches then. You had the top end, but at the bottom end, didn't have to be super rich to grab this stuff. And the car was a bit of a dog. He put it right. He got it up speed, repaired all the rust in it. And that was his hobby. That was his thing, which was really cool. So, and just kept it. Used it quite a lot, as I say, travelled down to Le Mans and used to take it around to the circuits and stuff with his mates. So it got properly used. It wasn't a garage queen as such, but yeah, it's cool.
Does it get used at all now, Rob?
Not as much as it should, John. So last year, as I said to you, my dad just getting to a point in his life where those things becoming really hard work for him, just losing a bit of interest in that. So he sort of handed the reins to me to make sure it gets used and looked after properly.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably every other weekend, take it out for a little run. I mean, it is a little bit fragile. It probably could do with a rebuild, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm kind of saving up for that at the moment, really. I've got loads of bits. Dad just over the years got, virtually another engine.
Oh, wow.
It'll take the sting out of the tail. I've just biding my time a little bit. I've been using it this summer. That's good wood.
So you involved with Porsche day to day then, Rob? What's your...
No, purely a love. Yeah. So I met Andy when I bought a 944, which was, when I got to that sort of point in time when I was past my tests. And you won't be surprised to know my first car was a Ford, but it was a Ford Mk1 Ford Escort. But the car, at the time was that I thought I could afford. I will be able to afford one of those one day. Was a 944, and I still absolutely love them today. I think they're one of the most sorted cars, beautiful looking, the right shape. Unusual that the engine configuration, that massive 4-pot. It was never the right time to buy the car with commitments with houses or families or, all the usual stuff. But one drunken evening, I made a bid on that 944. I mean, there is a bit of a story there. I don't know if I should tell it, but
this is the time and the place to do it.
Is it? Oh my God! It is.
It only goes out to 2 listeners, so it's fine.
As long as one of them's not his wife.
Yeah. Well, no. So I was out in London. I travel up into London now and then. I've got a social circle there. I was out with a few beers with mates, and on the way up, I've been looking at not collected cars. What was it? One of the auction sites. Actually, I tell you, I completely like. Just reverse out that a little bit. A few weeks earlier, I'd gone to look at this car and really liked the guy who's selling it, really liked the car, but I just decided, no, it's not the right time. And it went. I got a text from this guy. We'd sort of hit it off. And he said, the guy who bid on the auction has let him down. So it's back up on the auction. I was thinking, oh, that's too good to be true. So anyway, Thursday night, out on the beers with my mates up in London. I'm on the train home. It wasn't late, like 9 o'clock finish on the auction. I've put a bid in. I've got home, gone to bed, woken up in the morning to a congratulations text. And this is the Thursday before Christmas. I've bought this bloody 944 without telling the wife, without no one knew. I mean, it was a complete silly sort of situation. I can remember I had this sitting on the side of the bed with my wife. I've got a confession, love. You know, it was one of those things, and she's going, what on earth is he going to tell me? You know,
He's just come back from London.
yeah, what were you doing last night? You know, that sort of conversation. Do you know what? She was so cool because she just went, it's about time you bought something. You've been on about it for years and I'm sick of hearing about it. So she was very supportive. So sure enough, 2 or 3 days later, this thing got delivered and, you know, never looked back. And that's when I think the sort of spring afterwards, that's where we met Andy down on the south coast somewhere. You know, I finally made a commitment, you know, after literally 30 years of procrastination. It was, you know, and I love it. And took it straight round to see me dad, you know, and he's just absolutely really pleased for me, you know. He's really, really pleased that I made the commitment finally. But yeah, so, you know, everything we do in the family, I've got 2 sons, one's 26, one's just done his GCSE 16, and they're both absolutely obsessed with cars. And it's all my dad's fault, basically. Is, you know, we just used to be the whole time with cars. And he's had, you know, he continued with his car journey. He went from the 3-litre S Capri to an Audi Quattro.
Okay.
But not the Audi Quattro. At the time of the original Quattro with the wide arches, they made what they called a Quattro Coupe, which was a sort of toned down version.
Yeah.
But 4-wheel drive, 5-cylinder, absolutely gorgeous car. And I was not for 6 when he, you know, made a commitment to it, albeit it was weird because looking around with him, and we went out in a 320, 6-cylinder 320 BMW, which I think it was E21. Not quite a 323. It was a 320, and that was the car. I was thinking we've got to get a BMW. This is amazing. But he came back with the Audi, and Audis were really unusual in the early 80s. You know, they weren't the kind of commonplace that you see today. They weren't the mark that you see today. The Quattro put it on the map, and the rally success that they had with that. You know, I thought that was really cool car, really interesting. But that started our journey. And I think, you know, the whole Audi, Volkswagen, Porsche, they're all kind of in that family. And that started our journey around those sort of German marques. And Dad's never sort of gone away from that since. So, yeah, he went from that one to a Scirocco GTI, which was awesome. And I bought a Mk1 Golf GTI at that time as well. I've been through about 6 Golfs over the years, and he went through where he had the Scirocco, and then he got a Mk2 8-valve GTI, and then a 16-valve, blue 16-valve, just before the big bumper version.
Okay, yeah.
Really lovely car. But he had a bit of an incident. He got stolen, which had never happened to him before. So that was quite an impact on my dad, actually. It was a real downer for him when that got stolen.
Did he get it back?
He didn't. No, he didn't get it back. I can't remember what he went to after that, actually.
The Audi and the VW, were they through dealerships as well, or did he start shopping?
Yeah. The Martins of Basingstoke was the sort of local VW Audi, because they were in the same showrooms in those days.
Okay.
They sort of split, but yeah, Audi and VW was in the same dealership in Basingstoke back then. The GTIs were just amazing at that point, and we did a lot of travelling around again together in the GTIs to different events, Grand Prix and stuff like that. So
I was just going to ask, obviously, all those Fords at the start, do you have any idea of why you kind of just moved completely away from those into Germany? Or
I think the Porsche drive, the fact that he was in this sort of circle of friends that all had the P car,
yeah,
I think that drove him a little bit towards the Audi. I don't know, it was a really prestigious car. I mean, the neighbours were, they still live in the same little house that I lived in as a kid in a little council estate in Basingstoke. And the Audi was so unusual. I mean, people didn't even know what the brand was at that point. And again, his love for competition, I think the rally success, the car that the Group Bs were having at that point, and this thing came out of nowhere. The 5 cylinders, really, really unusual sort of engine configuration and 4-wheel drive. I think he was just so taken with the technology that, I think that was a sort of epiphany in a way. It was a change from the Ford.
Yeah. I think perhaps as well, the fast Fords maybe seen as a bit of a young man's game, certainly back in the day. And then as you sort of progress, you go into the sort of more refined.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, that 3-litre S was almost a bit of a pinnacle. Maybe, from a personal point of view, 2.8 was lovely, of course, but you couldn't get much better than that. And so I think he just got a bit bored and wanted to have a look around at something else. And the connection with the German brands came with this sort of social circle. And I think it just came from that. But he's certainly not gone back. He went Mercedes. That's what he's driving now, and I tease him for it all the time because I'm not a massive Mercedes fan. But we love the German brands, don't we?
Did he deliberately go for, say, the GTI or the sporty one because he was kind of an enthusiastic driver? Was he he was one to give it?
Yeah, he would drive hard. Yeah, and it was fantastic. He's a great driver. Even now, he's a lot slower than he was, and he's lost a bit of confidence. Yeah, he used to be a spirited driver, so he'd like a car that he could drive well.
Yeah.
Never did any sort of track days or racing. Probably a bit of street racing when he's young, not that I admit it, but he told me about he bought a brand new Mini Cooper when they were properly a Mini Cooper and rolled it in the Hampshire countryside. So I think he's always been a bit of he liked the right-hand pedal a bit too much, maybe. But yeah, always quite spirited. Yeah, so definitely it was all about driving dynamics and enjoying the drive with his cars. Yeah.
Do you think in hindsight there's kind of particular cars you wish he'd bought? Everyone, I suppose, wishes they'd bought that 4-cam Porsche for not a lot of money. But maybe there was kind of opportunities which came up, which... Yeah,
possibly. He was quite structured, Dad. He's quite, it was like every 3 years, and it was, I don't know.
Did the old cars go back to the dealership?
Yeah, usually, yeah.
So he didn't sell them on the drive or anything?
No, he didn't do that. He was always sort of trade it back in and get the next best thing. Yeah.
Are there any from your dad's history, Rob, that you would love to get your hands on again, potentially?
Oh, that's a great question.
Get yourself on Bangers and Cash down the auction and
yeah. I think the blue 16 valve GTI, I would definitely have one of those.
Yeah.
Helios blue, would it be Helios?
Yeah. 3
big bumpers. So it didn't have the big bumpers, but it was very early 16 valve, one of those. I think I'd definitely like that. Yeah, the right wheels on it. And the Capri. I'd have the Capri tomorrow if I could. Definitely. Yeah. I think I was at that age, 10 or something like that, 10 or 12. And that just, it was like a rocket ship to me. It was just amazing. And it was the signal amber colour, so solid, but really deep sort of yellow.
Okay.
Proper show-off car, right? Everybody saw it coming down the street. So he dropped me off at school. I thought I was the bee's knees, and the other kids would come and have a look at it, the brown check interior, John, that would be the one, I think, the Capri. Yeah.
Nice. Sounds good. I always think, we chat to my brother, so it'd be lovely to have all the cars that we used to own, my dad used to own. Maybe when we croak it and get up to those pearly gates, it'd be like an old scrapyard of all the vehicles just lined up.
Yeah, they'd be like all lined up. Yeah, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Prefer that to some relatives, really.
Not so unreliable, right? Yeah. No, I it's funny. Again, it's like the Formula One discussion. You got to keep looking forward. But I mean, I do like older cars. I do hanker. I think we've passed the peak. Look, there's nothing wrong with electrification. You can argue one way or another whether it's the right thing or not. But for me, they're not interesting. They're heavy, and I don't have a draw to it. Even the really cool, quick ones, I'd rather spend the money on a GT3 or an RS or something, from that's 20 or 30 years old. But that's just me. I think what my kids are like, they're big petrol heads, they're big into their cars, they're interested in the technology, but they're not passionate. So I was looking at, I bought a Ford Escort, the 944 is what I wanted, of course, but I couldn't afford that. But he doesn't really have that sort of, his hankering is for a 997 GT3, which is 20 years old, So it's sort of, it's weird, isn't it? I think the passion for cars is changing, probably for the right reason. It's changing. But yeah, so my dad's got Mercedes 4x4 A-class thing. He's had it longer. It's been the longest ownership of any car.
Okay.
And I think that's just a reflection of his, he's got to that point in his life, where he's, as I say, can't be bothered really. But I'd love to take him down a showroom and get it traded in. I'd love him to go and buy a new car. Drive my mum nuts. But I'd just love to see his face on that sort of, come on, let's go and trade it in on something ridiculous for an 87-year-old, sort of.
Let's get him a test drive at least in some C63 or whatever it is they are.
I think it would be a Mert. He does like the Mercedes brand, and I mean they make beautiful cars, don't they? I think
that is the retirement brand, isn't it?
I think it is. Yeah, you go either that, or if you play golf, you've got to go down the Jag route. But yeah, I'm not going that far yet. No, certainly not. Certainly not. So my dad's always been one of those guys. He likes to surprise you. So. Just turn up at your door, and it's quite endearing and a little bit annoying, It's lucky we're in, Dad, or but he just turned up, and he did this a few years ago. He just turned up. I bought a new car, son. Oh, people now, and outside is this gleaming black, completely inappropriate. Drove my mum nuts. Mercedes coupe, 2-door, 10 leather interior. So his car's always had a practical element to it, hatchback or, something you could. And this thing turned up and you can't hardly get in the back seat. There's no boot. And I'm like,
what sort of era are we talking, Rob? 90s?
Yeah.
Or the W124?
No, later.
I know the one you mean, yeah. About 97 to 2000 and early 2000s probably, yeah.
They weren't the best builds. It's Mercedes. So the 124s were, I think, they were the last of the real Mercedes. But when they had that period with
it's like their gap year period.
It was the Chrysler years. They don't want to talk about it, but it was that period, and I was like, wait, what the hell you bought that for? But he's like, big wheels on it, and off he'd go. It was fantastic, absolutely. I don't know, he had a brain ache that time.
I remember the model before the W124 was actually a really nice coupe.
Car, yeah.
My parents used to have a newsagent, and this guy, Mr. Barker, his name was, he used to come in and park outside. He had a gold one with like matching tan interior, I think it was. Absolutely stunning car. He always used to buy local newspaper. I think it was the News, the local Hampshire paper, and a quarter of sweets. Forget what they were now. Always the same every day. That car, I remember we used to see him pull up. He'd get in and it had the automatic seatbelt thing that came out.
Yeah, the lever.
Yeah, it just used to sort of come. We're like, what is going on there? That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's 1993 and he's got hovering seatbelts. But no, that was a good memory of that vehicle, that's for sure.
Yeah, they are lovely. The Mercedes is a fantastic brand, and it's just funny how you connect with some and not others. I mean, I love an old Merc like you've just described, but I'm not a modern Merc guy.
No, same. Yeah.
So really, really interesting is the drive that you have in life is sort of developed out of your childhood, isn't it? And and I look at my car history, and I'm sure my son will say something similar to me when I'm old and had enough. I think you either go completely the other way, you completely sort of want to do everything that is completely different to your parents, or you follow the same path. There's no sort of mid ground, you know. And so I probably could have gone worse with cars than I have done. And I'm planning to do that over the next few years now. You know, that's
got some catching up to do.
I've got some catching up to do. But maybe I need to do that. Get my dad down the showroom. I think that sounds like a plan for this weekend or something. yeah. That's it'd be so cool for, you know, a guy of his age to be walking, because he's tired. He's sort of had enough, but he still can, you know, has an attitude. He still can sort of negotiate or have a real sort of opinion on things, you know. So it'd be great to take him into a showroom and try and get some money out of his pocket, I think.
Maybe just say you're going down the supermarket and then just swerve into the dealership on the way there. Yeah, that'd be a great idea. But...
Well, you have to keep us posted on that as to what you're getting him into.
Yeah, I absolutely will.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Rob. Hopefully that wasn't too painful for you.
No, not at all. It's really nice. I mean, it's nice to talk about your dad, isn't it? I mean, you know, if you're close to him like I am, only child, you know, it's a nice topic. He's a great guy. I love him to bits.
Cool. Well, yeah, thank you very much for sharing your story with us. And I look forward to getting it all together and playing it to you, and we can put it out.
Super. All right, gents. Well, it's lovely to meet you, John.
You too, Rob. Thanks. That was an absolute pleasure. That's really good.
And I've heard your voice so many times. It's nice to meet the man himself. And of course, Andy. I think this is a brilliant podcast. Brilliant. And so I congratulate you on sort of coming up with that idea. I wish you best of luck.
See you later. Right.
Cheers. See ya.
Cool.
That was good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Quite emotional at times, wasn't he, I think?
Yeah, I guess there's I suppose there's an element of no one lasts forever, do they? And obviously he's looking at his dad getting older, and I suppose there's kind of and obviously also with his mum as well, kind of sitting looking at that, thinking, well, yeah, at some point he's kind of going to be without those people in his life.
Yeah,
and it's quite touching, really, that he wanted to kind of do that, obviously as a bit of a celebration for his dad, and see for his dad to be able to kind of hear that and stuff.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to the idea of kind of going down the dealership and maybe just seeing if we can get his dad to get involved one last time. That sounds like a good idea, I think.
I guess he's got to be a bit careful of what he wishes for, because he could end up with it.
Well, that's the thing.
It could be the last one, and he goes and gets himself into
there you go, son. Yeah.
a Kia or something, and he's I'm stuck with that. Can't ever sell it. It was my dad's last car.
That would be funny. Yeah, but there's a hell of a lineup, wasn't it, of cars that Rob's dad has owned?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, obviously starting with kind of the Fords, the old school Fords, obviously popping up a lot, aren't they? And I suppose that's also down to I guess the demographic and the age of the people we're talking to, generally speaking, kind of people who are in, I guess, 40s, 50s, that sort of age. Some cool stuff, though. Lotus Cortina.
Yeah, really nice.
Was that his or his dad's friend? His dad's friend, wasn't it, I think?
Dad's friends, yeah.
And then...
Capri for Rob's dad.
Yes, yeah, it's a nice one.
A couple of GTI.
Yeah. The Audi Quattro. Obviously not the wide body, but...
And good to hear that Rob's children are getting themselves involved as well in sort of the petrol head scene. Yeah,
I've met his youngest son, and he comes along to quite a few of the Porsche things. And they did a big European tour, I think, earlier in the year. They did either Le Mans or Classic Le Mans, and then they went to Nürburgring and stuff like that.
Nice.
So, they kind of really got involved with it. So, definitely, I think they'll be following in his footsteps.
Yeah, sounds like it, yeah.
Doing Grandad proud.
Exactly, yeah.
So, really good one. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I guess, give a shout out to anyone who might have kindly bought us a coffee in the last few weeks.
We got a lovely review, didn't we, from Woodsy, his name is.
Yes.
No, it's a really nice review. Sort of makes it all worthwhile, doesn't it? Someone's kind of enjoying it with us. Yeah,
and I think obviously people listen to it and do enjoy it. If you could spare a minute or so to type something out on your phone onto iTunes or Apple Podcasts, then it just means that they're more likely to put us in front of other people so the podcast can grow. We've got more chance of getting kind of, bigger names or whatever in the future. And Jensen, Ian Wright. All the big ones. So, okay. Thank you very much, John.
Thanks, Andy.
We'll, roll the credits. Thanks for listening to My Dad's Car podcast. If you have enjoyed this episode, please click subscribe, leave us a review, and follow us on social media. If you'd like to support us further, you can buy us a coffee or sign up to give us a monthly bump start. You'll find details on our website, mydadscar.co.uk. Bye for now.